What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mortgage Heroes Podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
And today we're going to be covering some topics that are trending that most people want to know about. And as you guys notice, it's only me and Will again, so get ready for another jam-packed Q&A from Will and Brian.
Yeah, I just figured, you know what, there's topics. We might as well just talk about the trending topics, right? I think it's so important for people to know. I mean, we got this from ChatGPT.
Yep, 100%.
What are the trending topics?
ChatGPT, please pull up the top trending topics to talk about in a podcast.
Yeah, and you know, here's the whole thing is, the reason I did that is because I wanted to understand what the nation is really wanting to hear. What are their choices? And it was crazy, Brian, because it was real estate and mortgage trends. Yep. It was business and entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And I think we've been seeing a lot of that with the whole Instagram and all that stuff.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm seeing these young kids driving these really nice, badass cars.
How are they doing it?
And they're like, you know, what do you do for a living, right? And here it comes. It's like, I'm doing
real
this.
estate, private equity.
A lot of it was entrepreneurship, but they're day traders.
Oh, yeah, that's huge right now. A lot of people are trading. And I think that sparked a lot in 2020 when everybody was at home and then the stimmy checks were coming in and like, hey, what do I do with this money? Let me get on there and play some video games. And I think it like literally took off and people took like video games, and now some of them didn't go back to work. They stayed to that.
Yeah, they said. I mean, I remember you were a part of that.
Yeah.
And actually, they had a home right here in the Gates.
So we were part of a trading group, and the guys were actually here from San Diego. They came back from college, and they just completely were able to find a good space in the trading industry, and they just completely were helping other people learn how to trade, but at the same time had multiple accounts funded by other investors that helped them basically grow their business, their portfolios, and overall they're still now traveling the world and just basically still doing the exact same thing.
I see the videos that they post up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
But
some people don't give up.
No,
there's been some, just so you know, there's been some that quit. They're done. They're like, it wasn't for me, or they couldn't hang with it, because just like anything in business and entrepreneurship, we see these waves like you discussed last week, the ups and downs of these waves, and sometimes they're fun to ride, and you can ride them for, you think it's going to be a forever thing, but no, it dies.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that once you really submerge yourself in that, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have bad loses, you're all going to have great days as well, but you have to be very, very disciplined and meticulous to be able to carry out that trading platform.
So I found that pretty cool. And then it has personal finance and wealth building, right?
That's always big.
Come on, I barely started doing the personal finance just a year ago.
I hear you, man. So it's funny that you brought that up. I had a pre-approval call before earlier this morning, and my client was like, so I'm putting away money in my 401k. I have a Roth IRA. I have some stocks. I'm investing in my my TSB. And I asked him, I was like, so what prompted you and what motivated you to want to, invest, take these this route? He's like, well, I don't want to be working forever. And I'm like, that's very smart. You have yourself low debt. You put your money away. You have a decent paying job. You're collecting disability. Like, okay, cool. And it just really shows that a lot of people don't want to work forever. They're trying to look for that, that breakthrough, that freedom, and that time to get back and be able to do whatever they want. I think that's the biggest commodity that I see people going out and trying to acquire.
But, I think it's pretty cool. And I know I said personal finance I just started, last year. It's false. I started a long time ago. And, you have to learn to make sacrifices during the times that when everything is going well, that's the time that you have to make that sacrifice and say, I got a stash for later, for a rainy day. At the same time, you have to always surround yourself with people that can help you manage and put you in the right finances. So I thought that was pretty cool, but obviously we're going to dive more into it. And then health, mindset, and personal growth. Health, mindset, and personal growth.
That just sounds like a trifecta for just, having a good life and just putting everything together. And I think that's one of the things that gets, thrown in the back burner, because everybody's like, well, I need to be a business entrepreneur. I have to hustle. I have to do this. But then you got to realize that, speaking of, people that are in, high positions, entrepreneurs, running multiple companies, they themselves share that, the anxiety, the fears don't go away once you make it to, higher levels. On the contrary, they get even stronger. But, there's ways to work around that. There's, things you need to do and implement in your life that help you cope with those things. Yeah, your success is growing. Your stress is all going to grow.
Absolutely.
But I feel that, you grow together.
Absolutely. There's a sacrifice in everything. So, no, I'm glad that you bring out that point. I already know Steve Jobs, if one thing he could always take back is he says, I can pay for everybody to do everything that I ask him to do. But one thing I can't pay for is my health.
You can't get that back.
And he's like, I should have worked out, but I always postpone that. And, the body could only do so much.
And I'm going to be honest, like these last couple of years, like after having my kids, I stopped working out. Like I completely like stopped after going, 2020, 2019, we were very, very disciplined in that. And it gets to the point where your body's like, yo, like what's going on here? Like you trying to like do some physical activity, your own body's going to get to a point where it's just like, hey, yo, like you really need to kind of like change something in your routine and
absolutely
and practices. But,
I just saw a video that it says that women that have a lot of strength actually will live longer. They're just going to live longer, like to 100 years, which is pretty crazy. I'm like, just for strengthening.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, you're only putting your body through, a tough situation, but nothing bad comes out of it.
Yeah.
So you're reinforcing yourself. I mean, you combine that with a healthy diet. You drink plenty of water, and I think you don't have to take all these supplements to be healthy. You just have to do the action. And, again, we wanted to go with this topic. Yeah.
We did it. It's a little bit away from what the norm is, but at the same time, I think these are good things to talk about, right? So we're gonna go back.
Yeah.
We're just gonna start with real estate.
And like to your point, I mean, we talk about real estate so much. Like, yo, we're real people too. We have lives. We do things outside of real estate as well. So it's just good to have a different point of conversation.
Yeah.
But let's get right into it, Will.
Cool. Yeah.
So the first one we have is housing market predictions for 2025. So some experts predict that there's going to be a major correction, while others say prices are going to keep going up.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, man? I feel like that's the magic question.
My whole thought, and here's a lot of things. If you really, and I you know what, we'll post it right there.
Yeah.
But if you look at homes that were purchased, even let's just say in 1920.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to say probably homes in that time, they were on average 50,000. If you look at the trend, even with the downsides, because people are right now on the fence and saying, I'm going to wait for that right opportunity.
Yes.
When the market crashes, then I'm going to get in it. And predictions show not predictions, the data.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. The data shows that if you're looking for that bargain, it can take you anywhere from 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So who knows if you're going to get it? For me, the market predictions, everything is changing because of the tariffs and everything that's, right now, the negotiation or war of negotiations, right? It's causing a lot of conflict with what's happening with the economy. We see inflation come down, but we didn't see the rates go down. And usually that's an effect that it has.
Yeah.
But because of all these other things that are being impacted by the new administration, it's just causing everything to go in a different direction.
Yeah, and I think this, starting off the year, to your point, there was so much uncertainty of what tariffs were going to actually do to the economy. We have a few weeks, months, now seeing that data, and, we have seen some prices reduced, but then again, I feel like nobody really knows what's going to happen, and also Donald Trump's verdict is very volatile in the way he delivers things at first, so I feel sometimes what he says attacks the market in a negative way, but not until he actually, clarifies and gives more context to, his tweets, his, sayings, then we can have an actual, consensus of what's actually going to be, happening in the economy. But I honestly feel that as we progress, things can only get better. We've seen the dark days these last couple of years, and I don't think that we're out just yet, but there's still,
not at all.
But there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're further that way than we are where we were a few weeks, months ago.
Yeah.
So that's always positive. But one insight I wanted to get from you, Will, is who do you think has the advantage going into 2025? Sellers or buyers?
Got it. So I'm going to go into that one. I'm going to finish with my prediction.
Oh,
my prediction is going to be that the market's going to continue to be pretty slow right now.
Yeah.
It's going to start off 2025 did not start off to be one of those banging years that we thought. As a matter of fact, March shows that we had the least amount of home sales. That's equivalent to 2020.
Okay.
And that was when the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So people weren't buying, people were stuck at home. And so that's how slow the market has started in this year. And it's because of the interest rates.
Yeah. So I believe Zillow's predicting home prices to only rise by 0.9%, but then CoreLogic is up like 4%. So I'm like, I trust CoreLogic.
They're going to go in there and have more data than that.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. As a matter of fact, we've already gone up, if compared to last year, we're about 2% higher right now than we were. The medium home price is 2% higher than it was last year.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you're in that position right now, I mean, we can only predict that things aren't going to get any cheaper anytime soon.
Yeah.
So definitely game plan and take the time to really really weigh out all your options before making a decision. But
so your question,
so moving forward, so. Who has the advantage in 2025 to start off, buyers or sellers?
Yeah, we've been seeing an uptick on inventory. Anytime we have more inventory, right, because the sellers are putting themselves in a position that I'm going to need to sell. For me right now, buyers have the upper hand, right? And it goes back to that whole cliche, don't marry the interest rate. Marry the home, right? Yeah. And that's just because you're going to end up refinancing at one point or the other.
Yes.
So I think right now it's very, buyers are in a greater position to negotiate getting their closing costs paid, doing a 2-1 buy down, just certain things like that. So I really think buyers are in the best position.
No, I agree with you. Seeing homes stay on the market a little bit longer, it gives, buyers a little bit more leverage to negotiate. And I feel that, if you negotiate correctly and you're not afraid to ask for what you feel you deserve, you might not get it 100%, but you're going to get more than if you didn't ask for anything. So I think the market right now is ask for as much as you can. Not guarantee you're going to get it, but, you're going to put yourself in a better position to score a deal than just say, hey, I just want to go. And hopefully they accept my offer, at a high price, ask for no negotiations.
I agree. The other cool one that came out is the truth about interest rates.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know. So you know what? We're so used to following the data and having our key indicators, say, hey, if, the stock market's down, rates are going to be up. If inflation comes down, rates are going to get better. But it's just so floppy that one day things could be up, but they're bad and vice versa. But I honestly think, I'm positive, and hopefully Andy can give me that positive meter here. I'm positive that as we progress, rates are going to slowly come down. We did take the elevator up. Yeah. We took the elevator up, and we're definitely taking the stairs back down. And what I mean by that is that, we saw a rampant rise in rates the last 2 years, and we can't expect for rates to come down as fast as they went up, because that would only cause other problems in the economy that, is going to just cause a can of worms that we don't want to open up. So, it's a very sensitive subject, and I don't think anybody really can pinpoint and say exactly what's going to happen. Like the Fed's been saying, we're just going to have to stay data dependent and continue to see the data.
That's it. And, it's all about the labor market.
It is.
The labor market's just going to really predict where we need to go. And nobody likes unemployment.
Nope.
And so we have most of our nation employed right now. But we'll see. The whole administration right now, people are saying that they're trying to cause a recession. And it's going to purposely be done. And I think it's just a tactic of doing that so that we have a way how we can refinance our current, our current financial debt of $36 trillion. Just imagine if you have a $36 trillion deficit, right? And you just refinance by 0.5%, a 1/4%.
You're saving millions
and millions, right? So it's like it just makes sense, but we'll see, because it also could have a negative effect, right?
Could, yeah.
But it's just like playing a board of chess. It's like how you're going to play that. How are you going to make those certain moves?
No, and you bring up a great point. That play, although it sounds far-fetched, it doesn't seem crazy.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, when they have the opportunity to bring rates down, and then they could say, hey, look at this refinance deal that we could do on all this debt, you don't think that's going to benefit, across. But also, you have to be cautious, because doing that could break other things in
absolutely, just like anything, man. It's just like anything. But so that's pretty cool.
No, I mean, I think interest rates, I wish we could control it, but there's so much intertwined with interest rates that you can only kind of, predict be positive about it, but then the market's going to do what the market's going to do regardless.
Yeah. So there we have it. So housing prediction, I think it's going to be maintain where it's at.
Yeah.
Buyers, for me, have the greatest freaking
and
opportunity right now, right?
And also be cautious that just because the rate is high doesn't mean that there isn't incentives, that there isn't strategies that you can utilize to be able to, you know, bring your payment down or meet your goals financially, you know, whether the monthly payment isn't in your range. You know, there is things like you mentioned, the buy down, you know, seller credits, you know, full buy down of the rate, you know, so there is a lot of options. But what I wanted to touch on is, how do you think that rate hikes affect the buyer's confidence? And looking at it from a psychological like point of view, like, you know, oh, it went up 0.5%, it went up 0.5%, but I feel sometimes they think about it like, oh, that's a lot, but in reality, once you break down the numbers, it's a lot less, you know, in
then
monthly
you may
payments.
think it can, Brian, but here's the thing. It really depends on what market you're in. And what I mean by that is, you know, what city, what state you're in. San Diego, 0.5% is huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge change. You're talking about a $300, $400, $500 payment, because the medium sales price in San Diego is about $960 right now.
Yeah.
So that 0.5% will make a greater difference, like here, New York. But if you're going to states, I'm going to say just Alabama, very different.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different when your medium sales price of a home there is going to be in 200,000. You know, so mentally it could be very distracting. It could be, you know, like that just takes away a car payment, right?
That's a good way to put it. Like, now I can't pay for those extra $200 that could be allocated here. Now, unfortunately, I can't.
Well, here in San Diego, it's going to be more like $400 or $500.
Yeah,
I know. So, but yeah, those are, I mean, again, that's what the people are talking in these trends, you know, which is pretty cool. And then the creative financing we talked about, well, that's one of the things people are asking, like, where's the creative financing? So how do I do this?
I actually had a question for you on that one. So a few years back, you actually negotiated a seller financing deal, and you were able to get it under what's called a subject to. I wanted to ask you, share what that was like, and, you know, how you were able to negotiate that.
Yeah, you know, just like anything, when it comes to sales, it's just negotiation. You always have to try to identify what that bleeding neck is, right? Like, what's causing them or prompting them to want to sell their house. And so you have to identify that, and then you have to just figure out where can we find the common ground so that we can potentially do this. So with the subject to, you're taking possession of a property subject to there being a mortgage there.
Yeah.
So in my case, we purchased a home at market value, right? So it's not like I did a discount or anything like that. No, I'm going to give you full value for your property, but allow me to take your current note, which was a VA loan at a 2.25%. Right? And so what is it that you really need right now? So the person's like, well, I can have X amount of money, which is like, you know, because the house was almost paid off, so they can have 600. But I don't want to pay taxes. So we found a clever way of how to do that. I just gave 100,000 up front, took possession, and told them, I'm going to pay off everything in 3 years. And so we did that, what's called, we did everything on the residential purchase agreement. And then we did seller finance addendum. And that really displayed all the terms and conditions upon what we agreed on, as far as how much was going to be given up front, what was, you know, who's going to remain in title, et cetera. In this case, the person was like, well, what if I want to buy another home? The cool thing about that is you actually align yourself with a third-party company that collects the monthly payments from your tenant. So when you get a tenant, they'll pay the payment there. And now the owner, I provide them access. So that way in 6, 8 months or a year, they decide that I want to buy a home. I want to become a homeowner, but I have that against my debt to income because I still have a mortgage.
Yeah.
That could show that somebody else is making that payment.
And take that off their...
Correct. Take that off their debt to income ratio because they can show proof that somebody else has been making the monthly payments.
Wow. Okay.
You know, so there's ways how to get clever with that. That was a way how to purchase a home. You know, some people actually do it, very common. You know, I got this from Pace Morby. He's in Arizona. Shout out, you know,
Pace. Shout out Pace.
But this guy's just very clever, very creative. Something that most businesses were actually purchased way back when. You're talking about the early 1900s that were purchased through what's called a subject to.
And you know, it just blows my mind that it's, you know, something that has been around for so long, yet so little people utilize it. And for those that don't really, just to pull it all full circle, essentially the seller is going to act like the bank.
Correct.
And you buying the house is going to pay the bank, which is then the seller, but they're just basically the buyer's basically just covering their mortgage payment and gives them the terms that they decided that makes sense for them to be able to release that note and, give you access to the property.
Yeah. And this is very common where like equity is very stagnant, and somebody they need to get rid of it because they got a job offer somewhere, but they can't sell it. And there's a formula to it, essentially.
Nice. Okay.
Cool. So now the next one, Brian, what do you think? Business and entrepreneurship.
So business and entrepreneurship, I feel blew up these last 10 years. And I think social media was a big propeller in that. And they definitely added a lot of gas to that fire. Yeah. But, one of the things that I realized is that, it's almost one of those things. Before, it's like only certain people can do it. Now the playing field is almost leveled where everyone can jump into something and basically start it. The only caveat is that I feel that, online, everything is so easily done. Everything could be attained. And in reality, it can be done, but it's not as easy as it gets, portrayed on social media, as you see it on YouTube, as you see it on the internet. There's a story behind every success. There was long nights before every success. There was failures. There was L's. There was crying emotions that went into it. And we only see the finished product.
Yeah.
So I just want to preface that if you're in your journey and you're feeling down, like, don't let that discourage you, because everybody that's huge now was once in your footsteps.
Oh, yeah.
The only difference is they never gave up.
Yeah, and I think it's become more popular,
Yeah.
Becoming one of the trends because people also need to implement an additional income into all the expenses that's going on. So I think a lot of people are exploring the entrepreneurial and, entrepreneurship and business. It's just saying, like, let me try that. I see a lot of the drop shipping with Amazon and all that stuff. How do I get into that? How do you become a influencer with social media? And I see here, Gen Z and the future of work.
Bringing that subject up, the one thing that I do admire about, the opportunities that are out now is that you can literally build a business. You can literally be profitable off something that you're truly passionate about. I see people that are like sports card collectors, and their whole business model is social media and then sell cards, and that's what they basically grow their business through. So there's so many avenues that you can literally grow into, but let alone you also have the ability to double down on something you love and actually be able to profit off of it, which I think is amazing. And it's something that past generations didn't have. And I think it's it's definitely a double-edged sword, because it's a lot of options is always not good as well. But then again, it does give you the opportunity to explore things that you never thought could actually be a possibility.
Yeah, it's kind of, well, tell me, you do a lot of social media.
Yeah.
I mean, you like preparing for that. That's one thing I'm not the best at. And I just think it's, the younger age, and we keep saying that, but then I see the Grant Cardones, they're freaking out there hustling. So tell me a little bit of the social media, like what inspires you to constantly be up there and,
So for me, social media, the way that I look at it, is a huge pool of being able to make friends without even having to be in front of them. There's been relationships that I've made, cultivated through Instagram or social media, and I think it's a great way to reach a bunch of people without having to, go door knocking 100 times, making 1,000 phone calls. But at the same time, it's like you're able to meet people for who they truly want to be and get an idea of what they are and everything that they, love, are passionate about. And then if you look at it from a business perspective, well, look at all the opportunities you have to generate leads, to create networking opportunities, to create partnerships. And it all starts by planting a seed, giving value. If you genuinely like something about their post, their life, what they're currently doing, share that with them. And you notice that little by little, they start engaging with you. And I think it's a beautiful tool, if used right, that can help you, force multiply your relationships, your opportunities. And I think it's just very, underutilized if you just use it a doom scroll.
Gotcha.
And just kind of go on there and just, waste your time.
Because
I could scroll for 30 minutes, watch 1 second, 2-3 second videos and get nothing accomplished. Yeah. But then there's also the aspect of being able to connect with people that you never thought you'd be able to meet. They could be anywhere in the world, and all of a sudden you made a connection, you guys start talking, and then there's more to that goes into like actual life.
And so that's great that that's used like that. How would you use it for 2025? Because I'm sure that's the question here that's being asked is
2025.
What people are looking like, how do I use my social media to help me grow my business?
So easily just
What are you currently doing?
What I currently do? So I go on there and I literally surf who's ever winning in life, getting a job promotion, having kids, had a great, opportunity, whatever they're sharing, they're leveling up in success. I'm there planting a seed, not necessarily saying, hey, come work with me. I do mortgages. No. I'm saying, hey, congratulations on your job promotion. I can't wait to see where you're at in 6 months. They posted something about their family. Damn, your boys are great. Oh, dude, that looks so fun. I got family too. So I'm literally just tapping in, giving value where value needs to be given, dropping little seeds of knowledge here and there whenever I'm allowed to, but I'm never trying to sell and force myself upon people on social media. My goal on social media is to create, cultivate, and then harvest a relationship in real life.
Gotcha.
My social media is just to harvest and cultivate. And then I harvest it in real life when I'm ready to have an actual business conversation, partnership conversation. That's when I bring it from the DMs into an actual text message or a call. And that's how I utilize, my social media to get around, to speak to more people by simply being a good person that gives value where value is given.
Yeah. Well, I actually see how you also there's an ADU that's being built and you're taking advantage of that opportunity. You're showing the people what's being created. Obviously we're all doing it together. We're all partnered up in this. And so you're constantly showing, people what you're able and capable of doing. It doesn't take a genius, right? It just takes the action behind it to go get it done. But you're putting it out there, and I think that helps. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. And I think our past guest said it, very well last week when he said, I'm not the smartest, and I think sometimes that works in my favor. I think a lot of it is, is just taking action, but showing people what we're doing. It's actually really cool because that's my first time going through a build like that and a project of that magnitude. And just understanding the level of what went before that to be able to actually get the ground rolling, breaking ground, reinforcing the foundation, the framing, and then the rain. You can't rule
the rain.
You can't rule out the weather conditions, So obviously you're literally detaching a piece of the house, opening up the roof. So when it rains, a lot of the water will start seeping in. But you know what? Like I look at it positively because I'm like, you know what? It's going to get replaced. Yeah. They're going to, it's part of the process. Yeah. Again, it can't get mad if this is what you signed up for, One of the quotes I really like to tell myself is like, I can't complain for what's on my plate when this is what I prayed for. Yeah. And I think, there's going to be stressful days, but I am having so much fun documenting the journey because it was a garage. And then all of a sudden it got torn down. And then all of a sudden I drive back home, there's a roof over it. And then there's a second story. So just the process of seeing everything from point A to now point, let's say D, we're not truly done.
Correct.
But, it gives me a lot of confidence that it's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
It's mostly just pulling the trigger.
And here's the thing, with your social media, the power of social media is that you're bringing people in this journey with you because you're showing them.
Yes.
And which is pretty cool. I don't think you showed the part where you're cleaning all this water that seeped in. And I think that would have been pretty cool because you're truly living through this journey. One thing that I think the power of social media is, another thing, like when we were growing up and we're doing our business, when I started my first business, I was, 21-ish, 2021. I had to use what's called the yellow pages. And so people would come and you'd literally put yourself on this book, right? So it would cost money. If you want to be the first page right there, bang, like as soon as a person opens, that right there costs you like $1,500 to $2,000 a month, right? Yet, let alone with here now, social media, how much do you pay for the first page?
So this is the crazy thing. It costs a whopping $0.00 to get started.
That's crazy.
And I think the only cost is probably going to be your energy and, the willingness to take action.
Yeah.
That's all it costs, and then maybe, you lose a few friends and followers because they don't like how you sound on video or the new persona that you're trying to embody.
Or you voted for Trump.
Or you just came out of the, that's another one. That's a cool.
I don't want to bring that up, but okay, cool. Moving forward, personal finance and wealth building. what a segue to go into this. And it's just pretty cool, again, how ChatGPT put these in perspective. Obviously, they put it in a particular order in this case.
Yeah.
Real estate being the main case. But now personal finances and wealth building, and it says the first one here, breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. How many of us hate that?
100%.
Some of us currently in the last 3-4 years have felt that.
Oh, 100%. We're all in that boat.
Because inflation, we're seeing eggs. I mean, Jesus. Tanya don't want to go buy a couple eggs and want to do our own freaking, have our own chicken coop,
Hey, talking about eggs, I should have shorted eggs. I should have betted on the eggs.
You should have, but these are the way things are changing, right? Everything changes and you got to just be very well prepared. Then the next one here is from renter to homeowner, busting myths about down payments and credit scores. Here's the great thing about that is, Brian, you know this better, but there's from renter to homeowners, busting myths about down payments. Is there a down payment required on all these loans?
No, we've explained plenty of times that some of these products don't require a down payment, and I think it's more of the lack of the information that you don't have access to.
That's correct.
That handicaps you from actually taking action or making an informed decision. And I think this year you should take it upon yourself to take a little bit more action and just see where you're at, touch the water, and kind of get a sense for what you're able to do, because a lot of people be surprised when they get, their financials ran and they're like, whoa, I'm actually better off than I thought. And it goes back to that psychological thing that people don't think they can. They need somebody to help them, reinforce that confidence that you can do it. And that's why I feel that, these critical times, you should be taking those options, because it's not going to get easier down the line.
No, it's not. And, here's one of the things I do teach my kids, and I teach all of you guys, everybody that surrounds me, something that I didn't do at an earlier age is utilize your resources. When people say, hey, call me or ask me anything, we always so worried about, man, is it too late? I may not want to ask. Ask.
Yeah.
The whole thing is ask. As a matter of fact, aside from this, I was actually putting up a fan this weekend for Dylan. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, well, how do you get this remote to operate that fan? I know I wired everything properly in the fan on top, but I just didn't know how to remote this. So when I'm putting it, the remote worked just like a regular remote.
Yeah.
It didn't need actual hardwire connection. Okay. So I just left the wires and I put the caps on it. And there was 2 black wires and a green. And I was scared to put 2 black wires together. I'm like, boom, I put that thing together. There goes the breakers. I'm going to have to go down there. And like a Dumas, I didn't turn off the breaker like you're supposed to. Instructions say that. But I didn't. It was just me thinking, I'm indispensable.
This makes sense.
Nothing's going to happen. But I'm not going to put 2 black things together. I already know what the green is. That is the ground wire.
Yeah.
I would not touch that. But, it wasn't a Sunday. And I was already getting tired because we had already gone to Home Depot thinking they have the proper product. I had gone already to, first I stopped at Lowe's. That didn't work, so I'm returning something because I have 3 wires from the light switch. Well, this thing had 4 wires.
Yeah, there shouldn't be this much hardware left.
So I couldn't really connect that. I'm like, how the heck am I going to connect that? It makes no sense.
I followed the instructions.
It did not work. My fan didn't go on. Go to Home Depot. Didn't work. I just didn't see that it's going to work. I went over there. I think I got the proper thing now, and I'm just like, what the heck? The control is actually battery operated, and that's why it didn't require me for it to attach the wires from the outlet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to use my resource. Screw it on a Sunday. I call my electrician. Thank you, Carlos.
That's what I say. Carlos.
Carlitos, he picked up and I told him, Carlos, I don't get this. How do I get power to that if I have this and it's battery operated? But how do I do this? Do I really put these 2 black things together here? And it goes, sí, mijo. And I'm trying to put the plastic thing to tie both of them, but I didn't want to really touch it. It goes, sin miedo, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I was scared that something's going to spark. I don't know if you ever had it where your battery dies and you have the car charger right there. You put those 2.
Trust me, I've dropped them.
So I did it. It worked. I used my resource.
I love that phrase that he said, sin miedo. Don't be afraid. And I think sometimes we hold ourselves back, and it isn't until someone who says, don't be afraid, that you have the confidence to pull through. And that's actually very powerful because everyone needs that in their life at one point or not.
Yeah. So that is a myth. You do not require to have a down payment. There is government grants that are out there. We have what's called CalFHA.
Yeah.
The loan gets approved here, and then we send it to CalFHA to see if they'll give you a grant to cover the down payment and at times closing costs. Yep. Most of these problems will have a higher interest rate and they have a little more red tape than the regular, because remember, when it comes to finances, it's all about risk, 100%. Right? And so the less skin in the game, the more risk the bank takes. So therefore, they got to get compensated in such a way by giving you a higher interest rate. Yeah. How the norm is.
And that's how they compensate.
But again, we're here as a resource, or contact your local lender and use them as a resource.
Yeah.
Don't be a renter. Go own a home.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to just ask questions, you know, and I think that's going to open up the door a lot for you to be able to understand your situation. I think asking the right question is going to give you the right answers. But if you're afraid or not confident, honestly, just pull yourself together and just take action.
Get it
Sin
done.
miedo.
Sin miedo. There you go. Here's the last one that I do want to talk about. It's VA and military wealth building strategies.
Yes.
I talk about that because we are very passionate here at Mortgage Heroes, you know, to help our veterans create generational wealth, especially for the land they help us protect, you 100%. Know? And so because of them, we're able to do a lot of the stuff that we're doing now. And so I appreciate everything that they do. So how do you build wealth? How does somebody like this, Brian, build wealth, an active military personnel? How do they build wealth using their VA entitlement?
So one of the advantages with the VA loan that many civilians or regular people don't have is the down payment. With the VA loan, you require 0 down payment. And what you're able to do if you're strategic is you can buy a property that's either 1 to 2 units and up to 4 units as well. You could then utilize the rent from each of those prospective units to qualify for the approval. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In about 2 to 3 years, depending on, the time, you can refinance out of that. You could then go into a conventional loan and then utilize your VA to wash, rinse, and repeat. Then you can get another property. Same thing, maybe stay in there for another year or 2. And then it's a step up a basis. Hey, I want another house. I got a family on the way. Now I need to think about bigger plans. So then you do that strategy again. And then now you have 2 assets that you've purchased, leveraging your VA entitlement. And now you're able to then say, what house do I want for my forever house?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest advantages that, you could utilize and leverage your VA.
Yeah. And that's great advice. So true. One of the common things that I hear from our active military is, I should have used my VA earlier, right? So you're talking about somebody that was in Virginia, was renting. And I always advise, wherever you're PCSing, utilize your VA. Don't be a renter. Utilize at that point in time. So when you come over here in your PCS, is usually every 3 years. Yeah. By the time, let's say you serve 20 years, you could have already owned 4 to 5 homes.
100%.
Depending. And that's the common mistake that I hear a lot of people that get into the business. They're like, why didn't I do that? I should, or somebody should have told me. Well, guess what? We're telling you now. We're telling you now.
Hey, way to alley-oop yourself on that. Yeah. That was good.
And I want to talk about that one because one was just something that always comes out. Very cool. So let's finish off here with health, mindset, and personal growth. Dang.
So I feel that's what always gets, thrown in the back burner, like I mentioned earlier. And I feel everybody focuses on the front end and forgets the health and leaves it in the back end. One of the things that I do, and you've helped me really kind of, bring back is, going to the gym. I think that helps out tremendously in being able to have mental clarity. And like I was saying, my body was yearning for physical activity. I couldn't just keep golfing. It doesn't do the same. But, even going to the gym on days that I don't feel like going, whether I go in there for 30, 40 minutes, whatever it might be, it's a mindset shift. When I'm done, whatever I was struggling through, whatever I was, tormented in my mind is like completely like, it's whatever. Like I'll figure it out. I'm not going to let it stress, because somehow me doing something strenuous, something, tough, it just makes me feel like, well, I just got this done. That's not affecting me like this lift right now. Yeah. I could take care of that. And I think it's just more of a recalibration that, it brings me back to my state of like, hey, you can only control what you can control. The rest, you'll figure it out. And I feel that in my business, times there's been very stressful, but ultimately it gets resolved. And it might not get resolved in the way that I want it or how I'm expecting it in my head, but the problem never unravels the way that it was in my head. And I think, having a healthy habit to be able to release all that pressure really helps out. And if you don't have it, that pressure might explode or come out in different ways that might affect your personal life, relationships, and just your way of looking at it.
And
everything.
Of course, this all stems, from everything. I mean, we got social media out there. You got a lot of young entrepreneurs that are just killing it. So a lot of times it's hard, but not to compare yourself and say 100%. Like, hey, I can do that. So when you're bringing about the health and you're really you got to put these things in perspective. That's when you got to do that cold plunge. Forget about that, right? And the intermittent fasting is what another cool thing that's happening, and sleep optimization.
Intermittent fasting, is it just skipping meals? Does that work as well? Because sometimes I'd be intermittent fasting.
Yeah. Well, they say that's actually very powerful, right? Like not eating for 14 to 16 hours.
Yeah.
And then you have that window of eating whatever you want, because your metabolism starts just freaking working at a certain pace where it's just burning. And I hear that brings clarity to the mind. I've never tried it.
I'm 30 years now. And before, when I was let's say in my 18 to 20, I would eat whatever I wanted. And even maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I wouldn't feel anything. And now I realize that certain foods, certain things that I put in my body are actually giving me an effect that I realize. I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat that. It makes me feel that way. Or, hey, after I eat this, it makes me feel real tired.
Yeah.
So before it'd just be like, let's consume. Now it's like, okay, I got to cut it down on this. Kind of be a little bit more moderate about what I'm intaking. And then you don't really realize until I was, like I said, was just feeling sluggish and tired. I'm like, I'm not, I got kids, but I'm not exerting my energy. I don't work in a physical job environment where I'm constantly having to do my body pick things up. And I realized, well, maybe it's the way that I'm eating, my water intake, and then, hey, well, that's my physical activity. None of those were being met to the degree that I even needed to a little bit. And now, I've been close to a month in the gym, and I just have a lot more energy. I feel a lot better. And just compared to 3-4 weeks ago, the energy levels were a lot different.
It just brings clarity.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right? So, we're talking about the mindset. A lot of times it's just and it's a lot. It's a lot of overload of everything else that's going on, especially you just mentioned you have the kids. Geez, I took care of my granddaughter, 3-year-old, and my other granddaughter, 9 months. That was crazy. When they took a nap, guess who's taking a nap?
Oh, man.
I am literally, I get it now. And I'm at a certain age now where, hey, I already raised 5 kids.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. Now it was like, whoa, it's work. So I really, commend you. I admire all you parents out there, especially when you're having more than 2-3 kids. My God, I am praising you, and so good work. But then we're going here to the balancing of hustle and mental health, avoiding burnout. While building success. How many of us don't get burned out? It's so true that they bring that up, because I'm thinking a lot of people, I got to the real estate. I'm doing my business entrepreneurship because those align. I'm building this wealth. Yeah. So they're bringing all this mental thing. And sometimes, well, when is enough? They say the more money, the more
problems.
And it's just, I really started thinking those are facts, because what happens is the mindset, at least for me, if I already had it, already lived it, I can't let it go.
Yeah.
I already know what that lifestyle feels like. So if it goes away, I stress out.
It's like
right?
an addiction.
Yeah, it becomes that. It becomes like, how do I get that back? And if it starts going a little, your finances or your income starts dwindling down, you start getting worried. That's where, the gym comes into place. Yeah. I use the gym as that's my psychiatrist. That's my therapy. That's what clears my mind. You'll never, ever hear me listening to music. It's all going to personal growth, because my goal is to be a better person. For my 5 kids, I want them to be proud of their father. For my grandkids, I want them to be proud of their grandfather, And for my business partners like yourself, I want you guys to be proud of me.
Of course.
And I think that's reciprocated. If I'm mentally stable, I'm going to reciprocate that. And I can then talk about it and hopefully bring, the masses with me. Like, who's coming with me? Like Jerry Maguire, who's coming with me?
No, and it's 100% true. Your energy is contagious. I mean, if you're down, if you're dwindled, if you're just, in a bad headspace, anything that you don't see right, you're going to exert that energy and you're going to transfer that to whatever it is. And it's just going to spiral into a bad, dark hole. And it's funny. I heard a quote from The Psychology of Money. And it said that by default, us as humans are just always inclined to be focused on what others have if they have more. Like, oh, I'm going to work harder because he has more money than me. He has more status than me. They have something I don't want. And then they did a study where they realized even after you attain that goal that you thought that was like, hey, this is why I'm doing it, there's always going to be someone else that has a little bit more, that has a little bit,
always
have more status, and by default, as a human nature, we're always like, oh, enough is never enough. So when it comes to money, you can have X amounts of money, multiple amounts of money, but it's never going to be enough if you're always chasing the status or, the goals of somebody else to just kind of mirror them. And then they said the way to kind of shift your mind is practice gratitude. Be grateful for what you have, the smallest things it is, but whatever it might be, just practice gratitude and be grateful for what you have present, because tomorrow it may not be there. And I think that's what helps you get grounded and not chase, the things that, bring in that negativity.
Yeah. It's hard not to, right?
100%.
Especially when you have
it's easier said than done.
I used to have the yellow pages. You guys have social media, very different now.
So it's funny because when you said yellow pages, it all kind of came full circle. I was like, no wonder everybody was A, B, C.
Yeah.
ABC cleaning, ABC this. I'm like, oh my God. They're just trying to be in the first pages.
In the first pages, you had to be clever. That's where we had to just evolve and be the chameleons. Like, how do I get there, So, no, I really like this, guys. I mean, hey, everything, again, it's very different. I when I saw this and you brought it up too, I just thought, what better ways to, have a conversation with this? And also, this is things that we have to implement in our daily lives and some of the things we have to do. So I like it.
Yeah. And I mean, wouldn't you agree that all these topics, everyone in some way, some form has a relationship, has been in that issue, could use a little advice. And I just want to open it up the floor to say, hey, if there's something that you've been kind of, like worried about, like, don't be afraid to go ask for help as well. Talk to your people, release what you have inside, because eventually it's going to come out, and you rather have it, come out in a positive way than it, seep in other ways and start cracking things that you don't want to.
Yeah, it just know that not everybody's perfect. I know I'm not. A lot of people perceive that I'm doing perfect. No, there's doubts, there's fears, there's things that I go through, myself emotionally that 100%. I doubt myself. But, like they say, the most successful people have the most failures.
Yeah.
Are some of the loneliest people, and there's certain things that you sacrifice, and so I heard, one of the other people that we just interviewed, he hates the B word, balance, because he feels like right? Because there's no balance. So it's like they say you have to have the balance. What it is that you're not balancing your life, and he made a lot of sense. It's like you're making a sacrifice. He was making a sacrifice. Do I want to be a good father, or do I want to be a good businessman? When I go to business, I need to be a good businessman. So I'm sacrificing the time of being with my son or my family at this point in time. And then vice versa, when I go to them, I'm just going to make the sacrifice of not being a businessman at that point in time and give my family what they deserve. I'm not balancing anything. I'm just being better at what I am when I'm at that present moment in time.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, Will, we went through all these questions. It was very refreshing being able to go back and forth. Thank you for your time, and to everybody at home, these topics aren't to be taken lightly. If you have something going on, definitely take care of it, but also take action. And the things that, you're afraid to do, don't be afraid, get out there, surround yourself by people that are positive, that, are telling you, yes, we can do this in a healthy way. And I think, everything will find its place and everything will come together as long as you're taking action, moving forward. It might not feel right, but you're going to make strides.
But it feels good.
But it
and
feels good.
But I love these. I love ChatGPT that gave us these trends. I think it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I know it's refreshing to hear. And I just got to implement some of these things.
Yeah. So if you took anything from this discussion, just take action. Don't be afraid, and take action.
There you go.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Mortgage Heroes, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this video and you want more of our content, subscribe here. And if you'd like to watch another video right now, click here.